Hello, my name is Bethany. I live in Kentucky in the United States, and I am going to be starting a knitting podcast. This is episode 1. I have zero video editing software right now, so this is just me showing you what I've been working on and things I'm learning, and I will be showing you all the things that I can show you around that. And yeah, so here we go. I am drinking some sweet tea this evening. It is pretty hot right now. It's actually the 4th of July. It's after midnight. So I have my sweet tea here. This is a staple of the American South, and it just is really nice when it's so hot. Obviously, it's very late here. Part of the reason I'm recording right now, even though lighting would be better during the daytime, is because I have 4 little children, and they're precious and wonderful, and they are loud, and they have a lot of needs during the day, and so this is one of the quietest times in my life, is kind of late at night. So I just started knitting this year, knitting with a capital K this year. Last year I was working on a blanket, and my husband and I just celebrated our 7th anniversary. And last year when I was knitting the blanket, I had, just had our 4th baby, so I was home a lot. And I know everyone was home a lot last year. But at that time, it was March when the first lockdowns everywhere had happened. But I had our baby in February, and it was March, so I still would have been home quite a bit. And so my life wasn't crazy different than it would have been at that time. And I thought, I'm I'm supposed to be resting, but I also want something to do, and I want to be productive. And so I, on one of my outings to go to a doctor's appointment or something, I stopped at the store on the way home, and I got everything I would need to make this blanket that I had seen, that I thought the pattern was really sweet. And I still haven't finished it. Uh, I got bored with it, and so it was probably 3/4 of the way done. And every once in a while, I'll do a few rows on it. But it's becoming just this thing that I think, maybe I should. Because you can't just leave it, right? You can't just leave it like that. You either need to unravel it or you need to finish it. And so I have just been leaving it because I want to finish it rather than unravel it. But I also don't want it. Clarification, I don't want to finish it. I just want it to be finished. So it's been sitting there. But the things that I have finished are these 2 bunny hoodie sweaters. They're just so cute. I made a gray one for one of my girls and a black one for the other girl. They both picked out their colors, and my son picked out his color as well, and my baby son, he didn't pick out his, I picked out his. But it's a sweet pattern, and I think I did an even better job with the black one than I did with the gray one, but I did do the gray one first, and they both picked out their buttons. Isn't the triangle one just so cute? It's also the first time I've ever had to do any crochet work ever in my life, and so I was surprised that a knitting pattern had crochet work to do, but it wasn't super hard. YouTube has been my dear friend throughout this knitting process, and so it's been fine. It was fine to work on it's just, I think, a single crochet stitch to do here, to finish the ears and to do this little loop for the button. Um, but I always feel like a toddler when I'm doing that first chain um, row. It just, I don't know what it is about it. I just feel like I'm, when you see a little kid who's got their, like, drawing their little crayon while they're drawing like this, that's how I feel with that crochet hook. I just feel so silly on that first chain, but I'm at home, so it doesn't matter. Um, and even if I were out in public, I would hope I would applaud someone for, you know, doing their craft and not worrying about what it looks like to other people, especially what the process looks like to other people, let alone the end product. But this is a top-down sweater. So you start here at the hood and then you work your way down, and you have your sleeves and your body here, and the end of it is this is a stockinette stitch, and this is just a garter stitch here. And you can see right here this line on the sleeves. I've heard people talk about needing to check dye lot numbers, and I'm not sure if I could have chosen better, because I believe I got all the gray yarn that was there at the store that I was at. And I don't think, yeah, you can see the line there, right there. I don't think that it looked like that when I knit it up the first time, but also I'm somewhat color deficient, and so, like, if I hold it like this, I can't see a difference there, but I know there's a difference. When I pulled it out of the washer the other day, I thought, that's rather stark. But it is for a 3-year-old, and she hasn't noticed it or said anything about it, so she seems to like it quite a bit. They'll put these on and then ask me if I can give them carrots to eat, which is absolutely adorable. These are made of 100% cotton yarn in the peaches and cream. This is obviously the gray. I can't remember if the gray has a I believe they're just all called the names of the colors they are. I don't think there's a specific, it's not like storm or anything like that. Believe this is just gray and this is just black. I think they have a couple of shades of green, and so those have different names, but yeah, they're just so cute on. They're so cute on, and I have the other one that I've cast on, and so these are the only finished objects I think I've made in 15 years, 18 years. Yeah, so I'm very proud of these. I think I had no idea that I had it in me to make a garment, let alone just make it. And but something that my mother told me when I was younger is I was intimidated, I think maybe by both, by a sewing pattern and a cooking recipe. And my mother looked at me and she said, if you can read, then you can cook and you can sew. And that has given me so much confidence throughout my lifetime, to know that there are other people who have done what I'm trying to do before, and if I just follow the directions, then I will either come out with something fabulous, or I can, once it's done, reverse engineer it and figure out where it went wrong. That I don't think she knows how much that's helped me throughout my lifetime, but it really, really has. And here is the brown one. I just have the top of the hood done on that one. This is to show me where my little cast on row ended, this is actually the cast on row in the middle there. And I love the way that she says to do the edging here. Look at that selvage edge. It's just so pretty. And it's been super satisfying to, like, the gauge on this is just so close and beautiful. The fabric that's made from it is wonderful. I am adjusting the pattern for this one a little bit because the pattern doesn't go large enough for what I think my oldest son would need. But that's the joy of a top-down sweater, right? You can always just keep measuring as you go. And I've made the hood a little roomier. I actually made the black hood a little roomier also. And what's lovely about this stitch too, the way that she has you do it, is you slip it every other row. So you do this row right around, and when it's the last stitch you actually do knit it, but then when you turn back around you slip it so that it comes up with this really neat little edge, and so that the edge is a little bit smaller than the rest of the hood, and that means that it stays on really nicely instead of the weight of the ears would probably just make it fall off all the time. And so it just fits really sweetly. It's not hanging on to their forehead or anything, but it's very nice indeed. And I messed up this part here. I think you can see this little stitch problem here, but I had actually forgotten to go back to garter stitching on the band, and so there was this gap here that was all stockinette stitch for a minute. And there's this tutorial by Nimble Needles. I believe he's German, and he has this tutorial. All his tutorials that I've watched are in English though, and so he has this tutorial about how you can frog your, like, rip back part of your work without having to frog out entire rows, and it's been so helpful to me. I don't know why I didn't know that was even an option. And so I am just so thankful, because I just did that this evening and it took so little time. And in the past, when I've made a mistake, I've lost days of work because I've just been pulling out row after row so that I can fix this little patch on it. And in some cases I haven't fixed it because it would have been too much work. So in this case, you can see here that there's this, for some reason, for about 8 stitches here or so, I just forgot what I was doing. And thankfully it's underneath the sleeve. When this is worn, her arm goes right over that. And so but when I noticed this, I was down here and I looked at it and I thought, there's no way I'm tearing that all out. But had I seen his video before I had finished this, I think I would have pulled those stitches back and redone it. And obviously that's still an option, but once I've bound it off, I'm done, you know. I'm done. I realize a lot of people make adjustments even after their garments are finished and everything, but it's especially since it's for someone so young and she doesn't mind. I really do try to not obsess over it. So those bunny hoodies, I have 4 children and I have 2 and a bit done. It's a pattern by Natalia Kononova at outstandingcrochet.com. So It's just this lovely, I put it in this little binder because it's several pages. But the reason that it's several pages is because she has these great pictures of what you want. So the short rows in the hood, how to accomplish those, and and what make one left, make one right increases look like, and then even helping you with the finishing of the ears and how that should be done so that it's so that it looks well done. And that is just really helpful. In fact, there's she offers an exclusive discount for people who are on her newsletter list. I need to check that out because I bought the pattern before. Obviously, I didn't know because it's on the pattern. And it's just really well written. I'm a bit of a skimmer when I read, and so I have had to be conscious of making sure I don't skip anything in the pattern. I'm often thinking that I'll be able to understand by just skimming it, and a couple of times I've had to go back and think, oh no, okay, that's not all right, I need to go step by step by step by step. So, but it's turned out the second time I did it was even more enjoyable than the first, and I'm sure familiarity had a part to play in that. But I think this next time is going to be even more enjoyable. And the placket, putting the placket together there in the front was something I've never done before. I mean, I've never made a garment like that before, but the stitches weren't complicated. And honestly, the construction wasn't complicated either. I had never used double pointed needles before doing that sleeve, because I've always been intimidated by that. It looks complicated, but it's really not. And so I think when you see something that you think, oh, dear, I don't know if I could do that, then I just hear my mom in my head again. If you can read, you can blank. And so I thought, well, I could try it. I can try it, and if I don't do very well at it, I'll just bind off the edges and it'll be a little bunny vest, and that'll be fine. But I've just actually been loving it. And in fact, I've been using DPNs for the next thing that I cast on, and that is this sock. Another, what should I call it? Mistaken presupposition that I had about knitwear is that that I didn't like knitted socks to wear. I received a pair of knitted socks when I was younger, much younger, I think too young to appreciate them. And I think they were indoor socks because I couldn't fit them in my shoes. Maybe they were supposed to be slippers, but they seemed to be too bulky to be socks and not bulky enough to be slippers. And I just really disliked them. And because they were a gift, though, I didn't know how to, what to do with them. I think they ended up in a bag for Goodwill at some point, which is really sad. But I thought at that point, I was like, well, knitted socks are the worst. I don't want that at all. And then I started watching other people knitting socks, and I thought, those don't look the same as the ones that I remember. And some of them are really pretty. And even just the way that you can make so many decisions about it as you're knitting it's just crazy to me. So this is where is it? The pattern for it. It's just a vanilla sock, but I didn't know what that meant when I started looking to knit a sock at all. They would be like, oh, it's just a vanilla sock, and then they'd like move on with the conversation, and I would go, I don't know what that means. So a vanilla sock, right, is just just the pieces of a sock: a cuff, a leg, a heel, a foot, and a toe. And so a lot of people have knit enough socks that they could just make a sock however they wanted, because it just has those 5 parts no matter what you're doing. So I sorry, I was reading something I didn't remember here. I started this one, and the cuff is obviously done, and I'm working on the leg here. I think I've got almost 2 inches on the leg, and the pattern says to go 6 inches on the leg, which I think is gonna be lovely. I think that'll be just fine. I don't mind high socks at all. And this pattern is from the Unapologetic Knitter. It's called My Favorite Vanilla Socks here. And the reason I chose it is actually because of the gusset heel. I used to think that the gusset heel looked weird and like was a telltale sign of hand knitted socks. But I don't mind that anymore. I think it's pretty, and now I think hand knitted socks are kind of luxurious, and I liked how her toe looked so rounded. The ones that look like almost like half a hexagon, you know, I don't know about those. I know your foot is supposed to stretch them out to like whatever shape your foot is, but they just don't look very comfy to me. And I had to measure my foot for my sock circumference. That was kind of cool. Never had to do that before. So I have been looking at some other patterns. This is a great, I love the way that she explains it so that you can just understand what a vanilla sock even is supposed to be, because when I was listening to people try to explain it, they usually were like, this is just a vanilla sock with these 3 modifications I made. And I thought, well, which part is vanilla and which part is your modification? I don't understand. So that has been super helpful. And I need to look up, I've made some notes because I really want to look up the Bakery Bears Prairie Sock, her heel on that. There's a tutorial she has about like making sure there aren't those little holes in the corners, and so I'd really like to do that. And then there are a few sock patterns that I'd like to try after this one that I've made notes about, but I think I'm going to do this just to the vanilla sock pattern first. I know that there are some beautiful patterns to do, stitches to do, to make really pretty patterns on the front of the socks and everything, and I do want to do those. I think the cables and the twists and even the summer socks with the little holes in the top are very sweet, which is so funny because when I was younger I would have been like, there's holes in your socks, but I love this. And I'm getting to the point now where I might be able to fit this ball in the sock soon. The ball just needs to be a little bit smaller. And this is Croy Socks yarn in what's the color name? Sorry. It's called Patton's Croy Socks FX. So I saw that they have black at my craft shop. They had black Croy Socks yarn, but they also just have these really cool FX colors. And I was thinking about doing the heel and the toe in a contrast color, but then I thought, no, I do want to finish this pattern just the way it says first, and then I'll make modifications. But this is in clover colors. Well, right there. And I've just really, the FX part is just the letters. Of course, it's a play on the word effects, but I really love those colors in there, the red and the green, and there's a little bit of yellow in there. Ugh, I'm just a sucker for that. It's so good. And so I've really been enjoying knitting it, which I didn't anticipate, because when I first cast it on, these are the smallest needles I've ever worked with. This is the smallest weight I've ever worked with. And so I've just been terrified of dropping stitches. And I have almost dropped a stitch several times. But, you know, I've been able to catch it back, and it's been just fine, and it's starting to look really great. I'm just so pleased with it. So we'll see if I can get it done for next month. I just want to wear it, which is great. It's a great motivation to get it done, because I really do just want to wear it the more I knit on it. But first ever socks to try, and I'm really, I keep dreaming about filling my drawers with knitted socks and sweaters and things that I've made, and slowly getting rid of other things that are, you know, store-bought things. And isn't that a funny dream? I probably never would have had that before now, but we grow and change, right? The next thing that I wanted to have cast on at this point, but I don't. Here, let me grab that. There's a little basket of the yarn that I want to use for it over here. Here we go. I went to a thrift shop here. It's not necessarily a thrift shop, it's more like a thrift chain, Goodwill. And I heard about people going and finding high quality sweaters that had been sent to a thrift shop or Goodwill or something like that, and unraveling them and making them into something new. And I thought, that is just wonderful. I would love to do that. So I found this sweater that is 75% wool and 25% cashmere, and that's probably the most high-end yarn I've ever wanted to work with in my life. But as I was trying to deconstruct it, I made an error in the string that I cut, and I just have all these little rows that it just, of course, came out row by row, and so there's just these little tufts in here. It looks like I sheared a sheep in there, but it's just row by row coming apart. These are the biggest things that I was able to, these are pretty tightly wound, but these are the biggest things that I was able to come away with. And the yarn is so thin. It's so much lighter than I thought it was going to be, and it's just one ply of black and one ply of gray. And so it looks like it knits up beautifully, but for the pattern that I want to use it for, I don't know if it's gonna work, because I think I can hold it double and have it work, but then of course I would need to join all of these tufts together to have enough to do it, unless this comes apart much better. I think I did a better job on this half of keeping the edges clean. You can see these are increases, obviously, but there is a little bit of an issue there. but I'm hoping that from, from here down, that maybe it'll come apart all in one piece. That would be lovely. So that I could have enough to hold it double and make a hat. It would be such a warm and soft hat if that's the case. And the hat that I want to make, I think, has 5 things in it that I've never done before. So it's the Coronal Hat, and that's by Erica Smith is her name. And it's a seamless folded brim, which means that I'm having to learn how to do a provisional cast on, which is another thing that I decided to dive into, even though it looked complicated. But Very Pink Knits, her username is Very Pink Knits, has a wonderful tutorial on it. She has great tutorials anyway, but of that, it's really great. And then also another thing that I haven't done before is worked with a chart. That's something I've never done before. I've also never done color work this complicated. I'm sure it looks simple to some people, but I've just never done it that much. I've done little squares before, and that's all. I'll show you those in a bit. But this looks so cozy, doesn't it? Looks so cozy. And I think I'll replace that palm with a fur one. A fur palm, I think. A faux fur palm, I'm sure. And it'll just, I think that'll just be perfect. Yeah. And I was hoping to make a few hats from this yarn, but I don't think I can. I think I'm gonna guess that I'll only be able to make one, especially if I don't take the time to join that other yarn together and this comes out as well as I think it will. We shall see. We shall see what happens. What do you think? Do you think it'll come apart well? I'll keep you posted. You should check out my Instagram. I'll post something about it there. My username is at Yourhightness on Instagram, and it's just Yourhightness on Ravelry. I also downloaded this pattern. I'm going to show you on the tablet because my printer ran out of ink while I was printing out these last couple of patterns. And these are just things I want to make for myself, which I guess I should do later. But so the coronal is there. Oh, maybe it's not there. Okay, so this is called the Flax Light sweater. And I thought I downloaded it on Ravelry, but maybe not. I don't see it here in my library. So it's called the Flax Light by Tin Can Knits. And you can't see it very well, obviously, in this because it's all pink. But it's got this great pattern on the top of the sleeves there. And in the picture, hers is gray. But what I loved about it is this pattern goes from 0 to 6 months to a 6XL in an adult size. And I just really appreciate that. The sizes in my little family are a lot. And this is free, so I'm sure if you Google it, you'll be able to come up with it. And number one, thank you to everyone in the world who offers a free pattern. It's so helpful to those of us who are just trying to even figure out what our knitting budget should be. And yeah, it's just very, very helpful. And that sizing is so helpful because if I wanted to make one for my husband or my baby who's just over a year old, I can do either of those things if I like the pattern. So I've also seen this ranunculus pattern that I would like to make for myself. I think I want to do it in the long sleeve, but with a weightier yarn. She says that she did it in the lace or light fingering weight yarn, but really the only thing that's affected by the weight of the yarn is the transparency of the garment. And so I think I'd like it to be a little cozier. So I'm going to be casting that on at some point. And then this is called the London Bridges Cardigan. Once again, my ink was running out, and so I'll show you here so that you can actually see it. Here we go. So this is the back of it, which is what I really, whoa, there we go. The back of it that I really like. That braid down the middle, maybe it's a cable, and then the seed stitch on the shoulders and that pleat in the back. It has this really cozy shawl collar on it. And I'm just a sucker for a collar that comes up my neck. I think it's just lovely. And she's got, oh golly, it's hard to see. Is going closer better or worse? It's like at the optometrist. Is this better or worse? You can kind of see it there. It is on Ravelry. It's called the London Bridges Cardigan. And it looks very sweet. And it looks like someone else did it in a striped yarn too. And that looks really nice. I think. Yeah, someone else did it in a striped yarn here. And I just love that. That looks really good. If I could show it to you better, I would. I'm sorry. And the other things, oh, I need to go get those. The last thing that I have on is this Provisional Cast On. I don't know if you've tried a Provisional Cast On before. It is quite the mind-melding experience. But I realized I'm going to have to learn how to do it for the Coronal Hat. And when I was watching the Very Pink Knits tutorial about it, I realized that, of course, the Provisional Cast On, when you fold it over and then pull it and you knit it together, that it gets rid of that seam, right? So with the cast on row, you only have a certain amount of elasticity. But when you get rid of that row and you've already knit it together, then it's just so stretchy. And I as I was watching her tutorial, I realized like that almost every piece of knitwear that I've worn, I've loved that, if that's been the case, that the collar or the brim of the hat is so stretchy. I've loved that. And so yeah, I'm very excited to try it and to get the hang of it, because I think it'll just become a staple of what I want to do with sweaters or hats. I just think that the comf factor of it is just great. I'm going to, there are a few more cast-ons that I left upstairs, so I'll go get those. Okay, so I know this looks like a lot, but yeah, it kind of is, I guess. These are my blanket baskets, and soon this organizational system, I don't think, will be serving me well for much longer. I'll have to think of something else. But, oh dear. I don't know. I didn't know about Annie's knit kits before this year. Earlier this year, I signed up for them because I thought, if I'm gonna do this knitting, I want to do it and I want to learn. I want to learn a lot about it. And so I signed up for the striped Afghan and the block Afghan. And so the block Afghan has 30 blocks that you put together, and then it looks like there's a trim around it, which I have no idea how to seam things together well, or how to do a border for something that's not part of the pattern whilst you're knitting it. I don't. So those are skills I'm going to have to learn to finish these. These are going to be gifts for some people, and so I won't tell you who they're for, because who knows, maybe they're watching right now. I know some people don't knit with straight needles very often, but for these squares, I have loved doing that. I learned to knit on straight needles, and so it just, I really like it. I like being able to do that when I can. Obviously, some projects don't lend themselves very well to that. But then the kit, they send you yarn, which this is a special anti-pill acrylic yarn, but it is very soft. It's very nice. I know a lot of people aren't fans of acrylic yarn, but this one is really soft, and I do really like the fact that you can wash acrylic yarn just however that you can get that done. And so I have with the blocks, it hasn't been a huge challenge, because so far with these, it's all just been a different order of knits and purls, and well, I guess they've incorporated some complicated yarn overs for some of them. Like this one had quite a bit to go to figure out, and then of course this one features some slip slit, some SSK stitches and all, but for the most part, the blocks haven't really stretched me a ton. But I've only finished up to block 12 on these, and there are 30 blocks, so we've got a ways to go. I am in the middle of block 11 for this one, but I have finished all 12 of these. I'm doubling the pattern, because I figure while I'm doing it, I might as well do another one. And the number 12 here is really cute with this leaf stitch on it. That's probably the most visually complex one that they've had me do as of yet. So I do like that one. This one here, that looks like it almost looks like a crochet stitch. I really like that fabric, but we shall see. We shall see what comes of more of those squares. But the striped one, the striped ones are already, I'm loving them. I'm using the acrylic yarn that they're sending me for the one set for this striped one here, and then for the brown blocks, I'm using the acrylic yarn they're sending. So this is exactly, you can actually choose different color palettes though. This is the one that I chose online. This one's called the Plumberry, and I believe the other one, well, there's just a grayscale one and a brown one, I think, to choose from of the blocks, and an entirely white one. You can do that with both of these. But this striped one, it's already much more complex. And so we've got lace patterns, this star thing, I probably had to rip out 4 times before I figured out what I was doing. These baubles, I've never done those before. I do think I'm going to have to go back and tighten those up. I've heard that there are different ways to do the baubles to where you don't have to go back and do that, but they do they do get punched in. Like you can see on these, they're kind of punched in. And so to be able to keep them sticking out the right way, I think I need to tie something around and then weave it in, probably. And this is the color work there. Never done that before, and that was a stretch. The next stripe for it is a stripe of ribbing, and so that's going to be pretty mindless, which is nice. The pattern, you get to see all the different ones, and so I'm here on this blue ribbing, and I'm gonna be ending on this purple stripe here, and it just looks so dense and great, these next ones that I'm supposed to do. I think I'm really going to enjoy this next segment, shall we say. And I should be getting the blocks for blocks 13 through 15 for the block Afghan in the mail very soon. This one, I chose the yarn for it at the, I just purchased it, and I love the different color palette, and I also chose to do this one in cotton, and so the grayscale one is also in cotton, and the drape of it is just so different than the acrylic, and it just is cooler to the touch too. And I even decided to do this yarn that has some variation in it for the cream, and I really have been loving that there's these deep wonderful colors, and this light blue is refreshing, and then but that stripy one is just really good. So I'm excited to do so I have to do a ribbing stripe on this one. On the other one, I'm practicing some ribbing on my Provisional Cast On. I just finished doing ribbing for the cuff of that sock. I'm going to have to do another sock with ribbing on top of it. So I've got enough ribbing to last me a while. I'm going to be swimming in ribbing. Enough ribbing to make a woman. That's a joke. That's a Genesis joke for any Christians out there. So now I think that's everything. I think that's everything I have cast on. I know that those blankets are technically 4 projects, but it just feels like one big project to me, especially since they're kind of identical. So I enjoy doing it, but it doesn't feel like I've made a lot of progress when I catch up. So anyway, now to the acquisitions portion of my episode here. One of the things that I am really loving, and this isn't something that I bought actually online, it's something that came in a subscription box. I've been subscribed to, they used to be called Cosbox, and now they are called All True. And this came in their spring box, and it's called the Katherine Johnson Tech Roll. And of course, Katherine Johnson is the mathematician who brought John Glenn home. And I obviously don't have as much in here. I've been putting some circular needles in here, and my pen in here, and my crochet hook in here, and I keep all my stitch markers and my tapestry needles in here, and of course these are some DPNs and a stitch holder here. I just love using this when I'm leaving to go somewhere. My husband and I went on our anniversary weekend. He planned a lovely time for us in Nashville, and as we were driving there and even at the hotel, I was able to get some knitting done. I actually finished the black sweater while I was there, and especially for those finishing parts, you just need all your tools with you. And this just makes it so compact and so classy looking. It's so pretty. And I know it's technically supposed to be a tech roll, but that didn't work for me. They showed pictures of it with styluses and headphones and things like that, and my headphones are in a like wireless charger brick, and if I stored them in here in the pocket without the brick, I feel like they would die, and so it just wasn't working for me. But this way of doing it is just absolutely lovely. I'm just, it brings me so much joy to be able to utilize it, because it was in my closet. I mean, it's July now, so it's been in my closet for a few months, and I was having trouble figuring it out. This might be a little bit of a weird acquisition, but these little snap barrettes, I saw someone use it to keep their ball of yarn tail in place. And so I've done that for, let me show you, even for the little ones, so that your tails don't come undone and get all tangled up. Isn't that just the greatest little hack there? I mean, I have 6 more, so that's great, but I think they were less than $2. So, of course, you could get cuter ones if you want. And then, of course, I have some resources here. I have seen the books that a lot of people have for knitting, and I'm so jealous. I want to have a whole shelf full of knitting resource books. But the 2 that I got this time, this one came in today. It's called Viking Patterns for Knitting, and I'm just loving the resource behind it. I know it looks pretty dated, and it probably is. I don't even know what year it was published. Oh, well, I guess it was published in the year 2000 in America, it says. First published in America in 2000. I wonder if it was published somewhere else first. You'd have to be, why? Oh, 1998. But I don't know what that says. That's a different language. So I'm sure it, there's not a big difference between 1998 and 2000, but she takes these Viking patterns that they've found in ruins and what's the word I'm looking for? Archaeological digs and things, and she patterns them out, and then there are charts in here of how to do them, and I just think it's so great. They're very pretty patterns, and you can even get to the part where there's even a part where she does runes, and there's even a part where she does animals in there, of how you could, like, if you wanted to make a really complicated blanket and make it look like a rune tablet or something, you could. It's crazy. So I find this fascinating. I don't know how many of these patterns I will even do this year, or maybe I'll do one of them on the top of a sock. That would be neat. But I do love to see the stitch pattern on that. It's really neat to me, just to learn about it. This one's a little more practical. This one's called Seasonal Slow Knitting, Thoughtful Projects for a Handmade Year, and it's by Hannah Theissen. And the photography in this book is just so yummy, honestly. It's really, I mean, spices in a flat lay. It's just, I really love all of it. I love all the, like, what's going on here. This is just perfect. So she says in the introduction that you should just start with the season that you're in. You don't need to read the whole book You know, if you're in the winter, don't read the whole book and then finally get to the winter. So even though I am a bit of a stickler about doing things in order, technically I am doing things in order because that's the way that she said to do it. So I started in the summer, and she just has these lovely little introductions and uh, tables of content in the front, and I'm just enjoying it so much. I'm enjoying what she has to say. I'm enjoying the tips that she has. She has this information about cotton and silk and linen blends for the summer, and even because I am enjoying knitting with cotton this summer so much. I cannot wait to work with wool. I'm so excited to work with wool, but I don't have. I think the only thing I'm knitting in a wool blend right now is the socks, of course, and because that is 75% wool and 25% nylon, I believe. Yes. And this is obviously a wool blend as well that I got from the Goodwill. So but I would love to use something with 100% wool. I think that would just be wonderful. But she talks about the different methods of socks. She has a sock pattern in here, has these little twists on the top of the ankle. I think they're little twists, I think. So I'd love to do those. They're called the Katherine Gale socks. Isn't that a pretty name? And she even gives notes on how to have a better fit for your arch, and how to make if you want the cuff to be smaller or longer, or how to do that, which is wonderful. And she has a pattern for a bag to fit your notions in there. I think that's the only sewing pattern in the book, but it's lovely. I'm enjoying it so much. And then she even goes into like different types of wool breeds to go by, and look at those skeins. Aren't they just captured so beautifully? So not only is the information wonderful, but it's just so visually pleasing to go through that I'm just loving it. And it is a book that I know I can go through slowly. That through this whole season I can go through it and not feel behind, or or have any type of, I don't know, silliness about it where I feel like I need to be blowing through the book or something. And of course it is called seasonal slow knitting, and so that would only be appropriate, I guess. And I got it originally because I'm not a very fast knitter. I've seen people knit continental style, and I just think it feels advanced to me, I guess. I throwing seems a lot more careful, and continental knitting seems so much faster, and I would probably get a lot more done if I chose to relearn. But watching someone knit continental style gives me anxiety. It's just silly, but I do wonder if maybe it's just because that's the way I learned how to knit, and that's why I'm more comfortable with it. If you've switched knitting styles, I would love to hear why you switched and if it's working well for you, or maybe you do a hybrid art of some kind. I did notice I'm getting little calluses on my left hand because I do push my needle back quite often, and I'm okay with that. It's actually kind of funny to me that part of my hand is starting to get a little harder. I was a gymnast when I was pretty young, and so getting rough parts of your hand from the bars and things. I didn't mind that at all. My coach used to say, if your boyfriend uh, if your boyfriend doesn't like you because you don't have soft hands, then you don't need to be with him. That's a stupid thing to need. And so I was always just like, yeah. So that comes back to me quite a bit. But that's everything right now. I am very excited to see the progress I make for next month, to see what August holds. And August seems like such, maybe because it starts with an AU also, but it seems like it should be autumn by August. But here in the Midwest, it's not at all. We probably don't get into true autumn until October. September makes promises, about autumn, and then there's the there's the last splash of summer at the end of September when you've gotten all your sweaters out, because of those few colder days, and you're thinking, oh, it's autumn now, and it's not. You've still got a few weeks before it truly gets to that point. So I'm excited though to see where I'll be in August, even though it will still be summer. It'll still be summer. I'll still be doing summer knits. But I'm very excited to see what this time frame holds for me. Thank you for sharing with me in what I'm starting now. And if you have any tips or anyone else you follow that has been really helpful to you, I would love for you to leave that in a comment for me. I'm an info junkie, and so there you can never leave too many resources for me. And I think I will go to bed and have a lovely time, a lovely weekend tomorrow.